Hello, everybody. Welcome in to the Basketball Bulletin. My name's Trevor Lane, joined by Donnie Freeman, and the NBA playoffs. Oh, boy, they're off to a great start. Well, for most series, anyway, they're off to a great start. There's a few duds, but we've had some really fantastic playoff basketball. Thought we'd jump on here live and chat with all of you about it. So if you got questions, you got comments, put them in the chat, and we'll get to them. Donnie, how you doing? You enjoying the playoffs?
Oh yeah, there's some really good series going on. Like I think the Clipper Nuggets one's really good. The Warriors one is pretty interesting too. And Indiana, I'm not so sure about that one. Kind of feel like they're going to run away with that series, but Dame is returning, so could be interesting.
Yeah, the return of Damian Lillard obviously is huge for the Bucks, and we'll see if that gets them back in the series. You know, I thought in terms of lifeless teams, of course, there's the Memphis Grizzlies. They lost by roughly 5 billion points to the Thunder. But aside from that, I thought the Bucks and our Lakers were the two teams that looked the most lifeless to start these playoffs, which was certainly disappointing. Maybe the return of Dame and the desperation the Lakers need to have might bring them a little bit more energy. Fresh Joe saying that LeBron's mind the game. He was talking about taking game one lightly and playing accordingly after. Do you buy that whole it was just a feel out game for LeBron for game one?
I mean, I wouldn't if he just said it randomly right now, but he said that for a large portion of his career, right? Like he's always kind of been saying that. So I don't doubt that. You know, he's got, I think I saw a tweet that said he's got a 12-11 record after losing game ones, which is the most wins in the playoffs, in terms of winning the series afterwards. He's won that series after losing game one 12 times, which is the most wins ever. So, but some of that's just LeBron's been there so many times. The loss number is probably up there as one of the highest numbers ever too, but he typically ramps it up. He doesn't lose game twos after losing game one very often. Well, also, Luca, I think, has a losing record in game ones also.
Does he?
Like just the fact that these guys kind of come out and just, that first game is a feel-out game.
So their powers combined equals game one dud, essentially.
I've got a cross-reference to Luca one, but I'm pretty sure I saw that as well.
And then they would need to bounce back in a big, big way. If we take a peek at the bracket here, and obviously we'll talk about all these different series, and of course we'll talk a bit about the Lakers and the big game tonight with the Wolves, the Pacers, and the Bucks as well. We'll get into all of these, but when we look at the bracket, what's the biggest surprise that we've seen so far?
To be honest, I don't know that there are any surprises. Like I'm not really surprised by mostly anything that we're seeing here. It would have been nice if the Lakers and Bucks actually played playoff basketball. They look like both of those teams look like they played that like it was a regular season game. They just did not have the requisite tenacity that you would expect from a playoff team. I would say Golden State Warriors versus the Rockets, but the more I kind of dig into that series, it would be interesting for Houston to win, and I think it's going to be a 6 or so game series. But the more I look at it, I'm like, man, I think Warriors are going to win this series. So I don't really have a surprise.
So I picked Rockets in 7 for that series, but I'll tell you what, if the series continues to go the way that game one went, where the Rockets just can't throw the ball into the ocean, they're trading for Kevin Durant. I'm watching the Rockets play in that game and just brick after brick after brick, and their best offense was just throw the ball up and hope to get the offensive rebound. And I'm like, God, this team is screaming for Kevin Durant, who can, at the very worst, even if things break down, create his own shot and just get a good look no matter what. That trade, if this series continues to go that way, that trade makes so much sense for Houston, with the only caveat being Durant's age. But if Durant is 27, you're not getting him. So
if you got 27-year-old Durant on that team, they're winning the chip probably.
I'll tell you what, my most disappointing player for the playoffs so far, Kyle Kuzma's got to be the top with his 0-0-0-0, this captain cardio stat line.
See that how that's been a meme for Tony Snell for forever?
Yeah,
and somebody else finally did it, so now they're going to start using the Kuzma meme.
Now they're going to use Kyle Kuzma, so that's really disappointing. But aside from him, my God, Jaylen Green, I know he could shoot them into and out of games, and that's what he's known for, and all that kind of stuff. But you got to you can't have Jaylen Green and Fred VanVleet wage war on the orange paint on the rim. Like you just can't have that happen. Those guys have got to shoot better. And Fred VanVleet, I believe, will, but Jaylen Green, I don't know if that was just the bright lights or are a bit too much for him or what, because that was pretty gross what we saw from him in game one.
Yeah, I think Jalen's had a few clunkers going back to the end of the regular season. You could kind of write them off a little bit. Yeah, he played on the 9th. He played against LAC, 2 for 7 shooting in 15 minutes. Versus LAL, 3 for 10, 15 minutes. Versus Denver, 0 for 7 on the finale.
He was keeping his games played streak going, though.
Right.
For those games. He was
you could kind of write those off. The minutes were low, all that stuff, but they were still clunkers. And then he opens the playoffs with a 3 for 15 shooting performance. Something's going on there. And I'm curious if they're going to be able to really turn to him because, like you said, he can be very volatile. He can shoot you in and out of games. I do wonder about that. But the reason why this series, I think does favor Golden State is because there's different layers to this. Like there's the experience factor.
Sure.
The Rockets don't have a lot of that. They've got some of it, and they've got a champion there in VanVleet. But they don't have a lot of it. It's certainly enough to match, I think, Jimmy, Dre, Steph, and all that. The shot making, the star power also leans Golden State's way. And then Golden State, you talked about Kevin Durant. The Rockets need somebody that they could just give the ball to and say, hey, go get us a bucket right now. Because that's a lot of what playoff basketball is. They don't really have that. And certainly not consistently, especially if Jaylen Green's not going. And, Sengun was fine. He was pretty good. Like the Warriors opened that game unable to guard him at all. But the Warriors have a couple guys you can just say, go get us to the free throw line or get us a bucket, right?
Yeah.
And if Curry's going to light Amen Thompson and those other guys on fire, then you're just going to lose that game. And that's kind of what happened. And the thing is, too, is Houston's not a good offense. They try to make the game physical and defensive and all that stuff. But the thing is, the Warriors are fine playing that way because the Warriors are also a team that excels defensively. So if Golden State's going to be better at their own play style, I don't really see how they can win.
Yeah, that's going to be the challenge for Houston, right? I was banking on Sengun making the difference, and he was very, very good.
Very good, yeah.
Curry's hitting falling down shots as he's jumping out of bounds and stuff like that. I mean, just crazy stuff. It still wound up being a close game, but yeah, Houston, I think they still have something. If you get a better shooter performance out of Fred VanVleet, out of Jaylen Green, does that help? Yes, but the problem is like so much of the Rockets offense also was they crushed the offensive glass. So yeah, they missed a lot of shots, but shooting better wouldn't help them as much as like a normal team because they feasted on so many offensive rebounds during that game. So I do think shooting better helps in general. They need to get better there, and I think they can still give the Warriors a real run here. Obviously, the Rockets have to take game 2, and we'll see where this goes from there. But I had Houston's defense being somewhere near the level of the Golden State Warriors, and that the youth would actually serve Houston well in this series with guys like Sengun. I thought Fred VanVleet's playoff experience would be enough, and I believe that Thompson was going to do a good enough job defending Steph Curry, but did not go that way in game 1. So
basketball left, right?
Still a lot of basketball left to play for sure. By the way, and I still need to give you my surprise. Actually, let me get to my surprise right now. My surprise is that Knicks and Pistons are knotted at 1.
Really?
I'm surprised that that's 1-1. I thought it was going to be 2-0 Knicks, and then the Pistons take game 3. It would be that type of a rhythm to a series, but the Pistons came out fired up for game 2, and they took it to them. They fell apart in the fourth quarter of game 1, but in game 2, the Pistons looked great. And I'll tell you what, Donnie, you know what this was? You know what game 2 was? It was karma, because Jalen Brunson draws a 6th foul on Austin Thompson, and he's laying on the ground and he pump faked. He got landed on. He pump faked, but he's laying on the ground. And what does he do? He celebrates. He pumps his fist in the air and he holds up 6 fingers to show, I got a 6th foul on you. And I went, oh, they're losing. At that moment, the Knicks were done. At that moment, I thought the basketball gods are never going to let you get away with celebrating fouling out an opponent, especially with the flopping that we saw from Jalen Brunson last night. I'm like, that cannot stand. And sure enough, the basketball gods came through. They did what they needed to do, and the Pistons got the win.
I see, I'm not really surprised because I think The experience factor does matter, like we were just talking about with the other series. Some of their guys, like I thought Cade in the first game for large portions of it kind of looked a little out of place, a little out of his depth. He looked much, much better in the second game.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is with the first game is that the other guys were there and the vets were playing really well in that game, because we have a situation where if they don't collapse in the end of that game, it could be 2-0 Pistons. Like,
sure.
That's also possible.
But that was a bad collapse.
Yeah, it was. And I believe Campaign got hot too. Like that. So like that was the perfect like storm of bad things, but I'm not really surprised because I think that the Pistons match up really good in this matchup. And if the vets are going, if Beasley's hitting shots and Harris looks good, then I think they'll be all right. But this is another series where I expect the depth to prevail ultimately, or excuse me, the experience to prevail.
I do too. I just got to say the Pistons are fun. It's a fun team, and I was all in on the Knicks last year because I love the way they crushed the offensive glass, which is what the Rockets do now this year. But the Pistons they're a lot of fun to watch. Even you can see the makings of something special there. They're a few pieces away, of course. They're not going to make a deep run or anything, but they can give the Knicks a real fight, and I thought we saw that last night. As Steven Torres said, the Knicks blew a perfect comeback attempt. Yeah, it was. They did the Lakers, the fake comeback from the Knicks last night, and the Pistons were able to keep them at just barely at arm's length and get the win.
Yeah, absolutely. I expect the Knicks to win for sure.
Let's see here. Cat played like trash. Yeah, how about Karl Anthony Towns? 0 shots in the fourth quarter.
I actually didn't see that.
Kind of got frozen out a little bit there. They didn't get him involved, which I mean that's very reminiscent of Anthony Davis, right? Similar issue where for these bigs, unless it's like a Jokic where you're going to run everything through that guy, sometimes the guards get going. And the bigs don't bring the ball up. So unless the guards make a point to go find them, they can go long stretches without getting a touch. And that's exactly what happened with Cat.
Yeah, absolutely. These guys can absolutely get frozen out of games. And we saw it so many times with AD, especially when he was with the Lakers, where they would just be like, dude, get him the ball. Like, you got to pass him the ball. But I think also some of that's on the big too. You've got to be demonstrative. You've got to demand the basketball. Like, you've got to go out there, make yourself a target and say, give me the damn ball. And it's a little different, like you said, for a guy like Jokic or Giannis, who is basically out there playing point forward or point center, whatever. They're going to have the ball anyway. They're going to run these inverted pick and rolls. They're going to get going. But for a guy like Cat, he absolutely needs you to put him in position to score. So I didn't know. I didn't realize that he got frozen out, but either way, it was still a good game.
Hey, speaking of AD, this is a question here that came in. Do you think AD might get traded again?
Nah, no way.
I can't imagine.
There's no chance.
I can't imagine. But you know what? I'll say this. The Mavs should consider it. But they won't. They won't. The only way is if Nico would essentially be firing himself if he traded AD after all of that, which, I mean, maybe you could argue that after what he said the other day, he kind of did fire him. When he said he didn't realize how big of a deal it was to Mavs fans that Luca was being traded.
Like the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
God.
That's so stupid.
What is wrong with you?
Yeah, I blasted him in my video on that. I was just like, dude, what are you talking about? That in and of itself, just being simply unaware, regardless of if he pulls the trigger on the trade or not, that in and of itself is a fireable offense for me, because that tells me you're not in tune with this community, this team. Like, that's so stupid. Nico has convinced Dumont, though, that, and I heard Tim McMahon saying this, that you basically can't judge what they have until they're healthy.
Yes.
So, and there's kind of truth to that. Okay, whatever.
Sure.
But as a result, I don't think there's any chance AD gets traded.
On paper, it is a good team. The Mavs are. It is a good team.
Sure.
But it seems like they were very dependent upon the guys staying healthy, getting on the floor, and winning immediately. And Nico thought he was going to be able to point to that and go, look, we're winning. See? Who's thinking about Luca right now? I know you guys were mad at first, but look, we're winning. Everything's fine. Right? He was completely reliant upon that.
Yeah.
And then everybody got hurt. I think the Mavs would be really good if they had all their play. Are they a championship team? I don't know if I'll go that far, but they'd be really good if they had everybody. I think that what they're going to do, I think the Mavs are perhaps the highest chance of any team in the NBA, maybe right there 1A, 1B with the Phoenix Suns, of doing something really really stupid this summer. I think that it's the Mavs, as though they haven't done enough stupid already, but it's the Mavs, it's the Suns that I think are the teams that are in desperation mode and are desperate enough to do something really dumb, because the Mavs know they can't go into the season without Kyrie and not get him back till January and just throw away October, November, and December. They can't do that. So they're going to be desperate to go add somebody in the meantime.
I agree with you on the Mavs piece. I actually think the Suns may have learned their lesson, because Ishbio, when he did his availability, he was saying things like, yeah, we're going to try to build a culture that's centered around defense. We're going to probably get rid of some guys, and, they won't, and we'll get guys back that aren't as talented, but they'll be better fits, which I thought was a striking statement for me. They may have learned their lesson. So we'll see what happens with them.
He said championships, plural. He said we're winning championships.
Okay, you can have confidence in your organization, right? You can say, yeah, let's win some championships. I'm not mad at that part of it. But I think they learned their lesson after the Beal trade and the way it's turned out over the last couple of years. But Dallas, I think Dallas is going to go all in, because the thing is Nico is fighting for his life. The fact that a reporter said, hey, everyone chants fire Nico, why do you think you shouldn't get fired? The fact that question was even asked should tell you everything you need to know about the situation. That's an insane question.
Why should you not be fired?
That's an insane question to ask a GM of a team. Why should you not be? And I saw the person that asked it. They were like, I know this question borders on unprofessional, but I had to ask it because every single game, 20,000 people are chanting fire Nico. Like, the fact that with that being out there, he's gonna go out there and he's gonna,
given that context, yeah, right. Yeah. Given that context, it makes, when the fans are chanting fire Nico, what do you say to those fans? Why do you think you should not be fired? Right, like that. Then the question makes sense, rather than just if that wasn't there, just hey, why should you not be fired? That would be insane. Yeah. All right, let's go here. The KD comes in and destroys their culture. I think the Mavs are the team that could very well wind up trading for Kevin Durant.
Yeah, I think he's the one that's really out there and makes a lot of sense, especially if he's able to use his leverage and make that deal come out in a way where they are able to keep AD and KD there, or excuse me, AD and Kyrie there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that makes a lot of sense.
All right, let's go. Let's talk a little bit about tonight's, the game you and I are going to be primarily focused on. Lakers and Wolves. I mean, we've seen in recent history, Lakers do this, go down 0-1 in a series. We've seen that happen, but they sure got their butts kicked in game one by a Minnesota team that just flat out looked like they wanted it more. It sucks to say it, but like before all of, JJ Redick's adjustments and things like that, before any of that stuff matters, they have to play like they want to win a game. Like it's not a random Wednesday in January. That's number one from the Lakers. If they don't do that, none of the adjustments and stuff are going to matter, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's the most important thing, is they have to come out with purpose, and they have to come out focused and locked in, show the physicality that they need to show to compete with this team. Like that's what they have to do. It's the playoffs time, and you are versus a team that's bigger than you, and you have to muck the game up to try to take that advantage away. I mean, Austin said prior to the series that, the secret to playing against a team that's got bigs like this is you just got to try hard as hell. They didn't do that in game one. They absolutely did not. So I think that's the first thing that really stood out is, like I said earlier, they played it like it was just a regular game in the season. They clearly didn't look like it was a playoff game. So I think that's the most important thing for sure. But I thought that JJ was interesting because he said they were a little bit shocked or confused by the way that Minnesota chose to guard, because historically they blitz Luca, right?
Sure.
And they did not do that. They sat home on the shooters and took the approach of, hey, Luca's going to get his, but nobody else will.
Yep.
And that's a really interesting concept, because that's something that a lot of times people say with, like, when you're defending like Jokic, do you sell out for his teammates or just let Jokic get his? And so that's what they did for Luca in this game. That's why Luca had, 5 turnovers and 1 assist
at 37 points.
And he had 37 points, but 37 points isn't going to beat you. Where you lose against these guys is you lose these guys because they're getting 30 points and they're getting 10 assists. Like that's where you lose against these guys like a Luca and especially like a prime LeBron. That's where you were going to lose, right? And so I think they were confused by that, and they're going to have to find a way to play through that, because if they're going to defend us that way, I think we also need to do the same thing on the other side, because they guarded Ant the way that they expected. Like it was the roles were reversed, basically.
Yeah.
they
overhelped a bunch into the paint. We saw that pretty consistently. So that obviously has to change. And they helped off of the wrong guys, and they helped at weird times. Like why help off of Naz Reid onto Julius Randle, who's got LeBron defending him? Like just live with LeBron defending Julius Randle. Why would you ever do that? Instead, they helped off of the one pass away, helped, and gave up an open 3 to Naz Reid. It was stuff when you go back and you watch that game that was absolutely insane, that no one would ever do. Anyone in their right mind would ever do. Like that was how bizarre the Lakers play was against the Wolves. And so the hope is that they I mean, it sounds simple, but play hard and don't do dumb things. Right? Like that's those are number 1 and number 2 on the Lakers to-do list. Play hard and don't do dumb things.
Yeah, I think you've got to play Ant straight up. I know they struggle with that. They don't really have the personnel, for that. Because is that Austin? Like he's just gonna ISO Luca all game. Okay, that's fine, but I think you have to live with that. And they were very smart with the way that they positioned the players on the court anyway, Minnesota, because they had guys on Ant's strong side in the corner, like a Reed. So like when Ant's going strong side, you're forced, if you're going to help, you're going to shade over. The only person that can do it is a guy like Rui who's on Reed in the corner. And it's like, well, pick your poison. Like, what are you going to do? Are you going to help on the Ant drive? Or are you going to contest on this open 3? The problem is that they were blisteringly hot from the corner. So obviously that adjustment needed to be made, and it didn't happen.
Look at that right corner.
Like, look at that. That's insane. Right? Like that. And that's all. And Ant had 9 assists, I believe he had 9 assists. 8 of them were on 3-point makes.
Well, and a lot of them came in transition too, and that's where the Lakers on the offensive end did a really poor job at getting anybody else hitting shots. I thought they were very stagnant offensively. They weren't moving the ball much. The passing wasn't there. They made some really poor decisions. I thought they switch hunted the wrong players. Like, don't switch hunt LeBron onto bigs. Like, if LeBron's got the ball,
a good matchup.
Switch hunt Nickeil Alexander-Walker, switch hunt Dante DiVincenzo, switch hunt Mike Conley, and get smalls on LeBron. Don't try to put bigs on LeBron. LeBron tends to, against bigs, and he has for years, take the little step back 3 against bigs. And if he does try to drive, it was a problem. But we saw it against Naz Reid. We saw it against Rudy Gobert. So I thought the switch hunting decisions that they made with Luca, it made sense. Luca shredded Gobert again. Yeah. So great. Keep doing that. But if it's LeBron, if it's Austin, don't try to get big switched onto them. That is not necessarily a plus, especially for LeBron. Switch hunt the smalls and then let LeBron use his size and strength advantage.
Yeah, the reason why I don't like LeBron switch hunting a guy like Gobert is because lately he hasn't been doing the step back. The reason it works for Luca is because he's gonna size you up and go to a step back and get a good shot off. LeBron doesn't go to that anymore. In this game, on I think consecutive possessions, he had a big switch on him in Reed and Gobert, and he tries to drive by them and get to the rim. That's giving them back the advantage, because while you're getting past them a little bit, they're long enough to recover, and both of those shots got blocked. Right? Like that's not what I would like to see. I'd love to see LeBron, get a down screen, get in the post, get isolated against anybody on this team that's 6'5" and below. Ant, Conley, all those guys, get them in the post, right? I don't mind that. Interestingly enough, they were okay with, we talked a lot about like the defensive assignments. They were perfectly fine just sticking Randle on LeBron, which by the way is a problem. That shouldn't be a favorable matchup to say, Randall's going to guard LeBron straight up, but LeBron just didn't move the way you would expect him to move. I don't know if that's injury.
He was not energized.
I don't know if it was that, like the energy, all that, but he didn't move the way you would expect him to move. And let alone Austin. Austin tried to attack these same matchups and it just didn't go well. but I think you've got to find a way to get these guys in favorable positions. Now, one thing that kind of came out of this game that was a pretty big talking point was Luca.
Donnie, sorry, just real quick. We have some breaking news here. Jason Tatum is now doubtful to play game 2 for the Celtics.
Okay, we're still going to win.
Oh, yeah, I think Celtics are still going to win, but obviously that's a big deal. Something to keep an eye on moving forward for Boston due to a wrist injury.
Huh. Okay. Well, hopefully he's all right, but yeah,
they'll still win and all that, but just something to consider.
Yeah, for sure. I was saying something big that came out of this, and I wanted to see where you're at because we haven't talked lately. Was the Luca piece, and there was a lot of like back and forth. Luca ball hog, all this stuff. Other guys can't catch a rhythm. That was a really big talking point in this game. Where do you stand with that all? Because I can see both sides of it, but I obviously don't think a guy that averages 9-10 assists is a ball hog or anything like that, right?
All right. So here's where I'm at. And by the way, a bunch of people in our chat have talked about the crowd energy being dead. I think part of it was ticket prices are very high for like the diehard fans. Now, people who were there who said there were a decent amount of diehards that were there, but I also think the Lakers didn't give fans a lot to cheer about. So that was part of it too. But as far as the Luca thing goes, so Luca right now is leading the NBA in the playoffs in first quarter points scored. He's got 16. Not a surprise. He was number 3 in the NBA in first quarter points over the course of the season. He tends to get hot early and he goes on these big runs, and it's what he does. Mm-hmm. I do wonder if there's an element to it where him getting hot early causes other guys to let down a little bit or feel like they don't just feel like, well, Luca's going to continue. Even though we've seen it, we know when Luca's hot in the first quarter, he's not going to be that hot all game. He had 16 in the first quarter. He's not going to score 16 every quarter all game long. Still finished with 37, but obviously his scoring did taper off, and it tends to do that. But it's almost like guys see that and they go, oh, okay, Luca's going to take us along for this ride. We're good. And they kind of let down. And Dorian Finney-Smith talked about the energy and needing to see the ball go in the basket and getting into a rhythm and all that. I wonder if there needs to be more of a concerted effort to get other guys going early. Not saying Luca shouldn't get going, but maybe get 9 points out of Luca in the first quarter and not 16, not having him take quite that many looks. Instead, try to get opportunities for some other players and just try to get some more movement off ball and more stagnation. Now, that said, I don't necessarily think Luca was a ball. I can't call Luca a ball hog in a game where he passed the ball the same number of times as he would in a regular season game. LeBron and Austin actually passed less than they did in regular season games. If you dig into those stats. And then Luca was 12 of 22 shooting and 5 of 10 from 3. I mean, if we really want to look at it this way, if Luca took every single one of the Lakers shots at those percentages, they win the game, right? So he was incredibly efficient, but I do think there's something to getting other guys into a rhythm and going early. And I think and not just the offensive end, I think there is a benefit on the defensive end as well. Because you need guys feeling in rhythm and feeling part of the game and connected. And that, I think that's going to be key.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest reason why LeBron takes the approach he does, because he's mostly always done that, where it's like for the first 2.5, 3 quarters, I'm going to make sure everyone else kind of gets eating because you need them to be involved in the game and paying attention. And I agree with everything you said. When you have, and it happened in this game, when Luca gets off to the hot start and no one else is hitting anything also, when you open the second quarter with a group of guys that have not caught a rhythm, that could be problematic. And it was in this game because Austin and LeBron hadn't seen the ball go through, I don't think at all at that point. And LeBron had a pretty good scoring second quarter ultimately. Austin had a good third quarter, I believe is how it broke down. But you lost that huge lead, right there in those couple of minutes where Luca's not in the game because he played the entire first quarter. So I do wonder if there should be a better balance in the first. But again, it's hard to be critical of him when he's 12 of 22 and he's scoring. I can't really talk much about that. I do wonder if maybe, like you said, 9 instead of 16, letting some other people get going a little bit differently would be better off. Now, some of that's also because, again, like I mentioned earlier, they stayed home. They didn't let these guys get shots off, but that's where your organization needs to come in. It can't be ISO last second. Okay, let me make this kick to the corner to this open guy. No, you got to run some sets, get these guys involved. Move them. They can't just sit in the corner because that's extremely easy to defend.
Yeah. They need to get more off-ball stuff going. They need to get more pin down screens, get guys popping up, things like that, and create looks for players. They've got to be better there because the reality is that you can't have, in terms of the Lakers' big three, LeBron, Luca, Austin, you can't have one of those three having a good game and the other two not. At minimum, you need two good games. At minimum. Realistically, you probably need three to beat the best teams. Lake Show 1996 said, we need a Vando's Vault game tonight guarding Ant. Is that, are the Lakers so desperate for defense that they say, you know what, we're not going to worry about being able to play 5 out and Jared Vanderbilt's going to have to play like 20 minutes?
I actually, you know what? If Vando's going to come in and have because he did it again in this game. We talked about it before, how every now and again Vando comes in and his energy is just infectious and he makes a lot of loud plays. If he's going to do that, then you've got to find a way to play him 20 minutes. I think, I know JJ likes to zig where they zag, as you love saying.
Yeah.
But I think maybe he's going a little too small. Like, I don't think you can play Hayes 8 minutes. I think you've got to use some of that size if you've got it also. And that's also Vando too.
Do you buy Jaden McDaniels saying that he knows he can get easier looks when Jackson Hayes isn't on the floor?
He said he's the second tallest person. He's the tallest person out there when the centers aren't out there.
When Hayes isn't out there. Was he being truthful or was he trying to troll the Lakers into playing Jackson Hayes more minutes?
I mean, it could be a little bit of both, right? It could be a little bit of both. I don't know. I'd have to look at the numbers really, but I mean, it could be a little bit of both. Depends on how Jackson is used, I guess.
I would like to see
he didn't have any difficulty scoring in this game without Jackson, so
no. Well, and that's just it. I've got a lot of people telling me, "Oh, Dalton Connect needs to play." I don't think offense is the problem. Now, scoring wise was obviously a problem in this game. They didn't shoot a high enough percentage, but I don't think that creating offense is necessarily the problem for the Lakers. You've got enough offensive firepower. That's what I'm saying with LeBron, with Luca, with Austin, with Rui. I think you have enough offensive firepower in order to win. Now, whether or not you're executing at the level you need to is another story. But I don't think adding Dalton Connect to Luca, Austin, LeBron, and then throw Dalton Connect out there suddenly takes your offense to another level in a way that, say, Rui Hachimura doesn't, or something like this. So I don't see him as because he's going to give up so much defensively. By the way, I thought Rui he struggled defensively. In game one as well.
Physicality in game one.
No,
he didn't out hustled. He was getting pushed around.
Yeah, but Connect would get, torn to shreds. Like he would get, to use a pun, I guess, he would get mauled defensively. They would go right. Like if they're targeting Austin Reeves, if they're targeting Rui, they were targeting Luca. They would. The second he stepped on the floor, he would immediately, whoever he was defending, would immediately get the ball and they would go at him.
Yeah, that's possible. That's always going to be the problem with him, though, and guys of his style, right? Like you're hoping that the offensive value offsets that, and maybe if they get him going, that could be something that helps him out because he is a flamethrower. When he gets hot, he's hot.
This is one thing. Felt bad for Austin Reeves against Randall. So the question is, should the Lakers switch or not? Because when they didn't switch, the Wolves were getting drives to the rim when they didn't switch. Then when they did switch, the Wolves just said, okay, cool. You're going to switch this now. And we're going to live with you switching it. And that means that Austin Reeves is going to wind up defending Randall, or Austin Reeves is going to wind up defending Naz Reid. We're going to put them in the post and we're going to attack your smalls with our bigs when you do switch. So when they were running that guard big pick and roll, particularly on the sides, the Lakers, at first they weren't switching it, and then they switched it a few times, and the Wolves just went, either way, it was like pick your poison. It was either if we don't switch it, and we're going to give up, like Nickeil Alexander-Walker is going to drive into the paint or something like that, or if we switch it, then we're going to make the entry pass to Naz Reid with now Austin Reeves or Gabe Vincent defending him, or Julius Randle. How the Lakers handle that, I think, is going to be critical because the Wolves seem to have the exact counter, the exact game plan for what to do, regardless of what defense the Lakers threw out there. And so I'm really curious to see what JJ Redick's solution to that problem is going to be.
Yeah, I'm curious as well because I can't think of a solution right now other than just flat out not giving the switch, which can yield other benefits to the offensive player. I think that with this with this team, they've got obviously the playmaking, the star talent. That's fine, but I think the roster is very inflexible. They don't have a lot of different ways to maneuver all of this. Some of it is just flat out, how hard are you guys going to play? Are you going to really go out there and work? And then the next piece is, are your role players going to hit shots? Because I think that's the biggest piece of this is the way that they're designed and the way they like to play defense. They're going to concede shots to certain players. In fact, a lot of teams do that. Just kind of the nature of today's NBA. A lot of teams concede the shot to the worst players. But I think the Lakers just didn't match with the energy as well, because most of the shots they got were wide open, despite them being schemed open. So they wound up being practice shots. And the thing is that the Wolves guys hit those shots, and that's going to beat you. So,
I mean, the two players that you wanted to scheme shots for, whether obviously you'd prefer they were somewhat contested, but the two players you wanted to scheme shots for went 7 for 9 from three.
That's
that's Randall and Jaden McDaniels. Now, you should never. What drove me crazy? You can't leave. Naz Reid is like, Jaden McDaniels is a 33% 3-point shooter. Naz Reid is a legitimately good 3-point shooter. Is he 6 for 9 every night? Is he a 67% 3-point shooter? No, he still shot above his head. But if you're leaving him for any reason, you're making a mistake. He's a 40% 3-point. You cannot leave him. And so they made some dumb choices there, but it was really compounded when the two guys that you wanted shooting the threes for the Wolves, Randall and McDaniels, shot 7 for 9. That hurt.
Gonna beat you every time. I mean, there were some things in the Wolves game that, typically would trend well for LA. Like, for example, Randall had 7 turnovers. DiVincenzo and Walker were 2 for 11 out there. Like, those are things that should trend well, but the 3-point shooting from Randall and McDaniels and Reed was backbreaking. And I gotta say, Reed, man, he's so good. Like, I love Reed as a player. Like, obviously, I don't love the way he lights the Lakers on fire. I don't love that, but he's so cool because he's got a great handle, great fluidity, great size. He's got a great backstory too. But also just his shooting is prolific, and he's got such a quick release. And there's a couple threes where he was doing the thing where he was really feeling it. He let it go, was turning away while it's in there. I was like, oh my God, he got that hot.
Yep.
Reed is legit, man. He's really cool.
All right, let's jump over to, since we've talked a lot of Lakers, which we knew we would, but let's jump over to the Clippers and the Nuggets. Donnie, my hope for that series. Look, whichever team wins. But I did pick Clippers would win this series. I think I said Clippers in 6 because I'm that down on Denver's defense. But right now it's knotted at 1. After seeing the first 2 games, all I can say is, please, basketball gods, give us 7 games of this, because this series is awesome. It is so much fun. I love this series.
Yeah, Jokic said, if you're a fan of basketball, then this is the best series to be watching right now, basically, to paraphrase. And it's true, because this seems like it's got the makings of a series that's going to go down to the wire every game. I mean, there was a 3-point game. This game seems like it's going to go down to the wire every time, go to clutch time, all that stuff, and rely on big shot making. And this is a great series. Kawhi, man, it's so cool. Kawhi had missed like 15 of 19 playoff games for the Clippers. Of their previous 19 playoff games, he had missed 15 of them. But it's interesting because now he's finally healthy again. And Kawhi's crazy because I think because he spent so much time injured, people forget how good he actually is. I mean,
people didn't know if he could be that again.
Right. You don't know if he's able to get to that level again, but putting up a 40-point game, and on fire as he was, getting to his spots, his midi is still automatic. He's fully Kawhi right now, and it's crazy, man. Yeah,
I mean, it's been a super fun series, and I look, the chess match has been amazing. The way these two teams have been going after each other. Ivica Zubac's trying to battle as best he can in the paint. Chris Dunn, he makes some stupid mistakes every now and then, but I love the way he defends. And then I also think this is the full Russell Westbrook experience.
Oh, yeah.
This is like Russ will make an amazing, you're like, oh my God, where did that come from? He makes an incredible on either end of the floor. Defensively, he's getting steals and stuff. And then he'll go and do one of the dumbest things you've ever seen. And it's just, it's like,
No,
this is
you
it.
can't.
This is the full Westbrook. And you can see it happen in like 10 seconds. It could be something great to something horribly awful. And it makes it so you cannot look away because you never know which extreme you're going to get at any given moment.
You can't do Russ like that. He was legitimately clutch in that game one. Like he was getting big rebound after big shot, after turnover, after big rebound, after I saw a tweet after game one that said, and this may or may not resonate with you, but it should resonate with the audience, that Russell is the Mario Kart item box.
I saw that. No, I know that. That's exactly what he is.
Where you get it, and it's like, who knows what you're getting on this possession? You're gonna get some random thing, but you know what? He was huge in game one, and then in game two, he was hitting his shots. Like they've been daring him to shoot, and he's been hitting them. He's been pretty good in this series. I can't even you've got to give him full.
He was
credit.
3 of 6 from 3. This is game 2, and he was 14 points, 3 of 6 from 3. 1 assist to 2 turnovers isn't ideal, but played 23 minutes.
Yeah,
he was pretty good there. But
he was the hero of game one for sure.
Oh, big time. Look at Michael Porter Jr. 15 rebounds. Could go low 15 points. Now did hurt his shoulder, so hopefully everything's okay there. Big Shay. Yep. Don't know what to expect. Yeah, you never know what to expect with him. You just don't. Jokic is doing Jokic things, but I think the way the Clippers are battling is fantastic. Look, all these games, so far it's 2 games, but they've been close. Kawhi dropped 39, 16 for Zoo with 12 rebounds, 18 for Harden. Even Norman Powell. I was a little surprised the Nuggets don't target Norman Powell a little bit more just because of his defensive issues that he's got there. But this has been a great series. We even saw Ben Simmons take a shot. He took a shot. He actually did. You know what, though? Which was amazing. Only played 8 minutes. I am extremely disappointed, though, in Bogdanovic.
He's been all year been bad.
Just not been good. Been good. Like, when he's out there, every once in a while, you'll see him do something. You go, oh, yeah, there's the old bogey. But most of the time, it's like, should they even be playing him right now? I don't know. Like, I guess there's not a lot of other options to turn to, but man, he's been rough.
Yeah. Junior and Batum, though, have been really good in this series.
Yeah.
Big shots from
big threes. Like all of Batum's shots came from 3, knocked down 2 of them. Derek Jones, some vicious dunks, but also doing some good things on the defensive side of the ball. This series is going to be crazy. It's going to be absolutely crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
All the way through.
It's interesting that, like I said, Kawhi is finally able to show what he can do on the big. And this was after a game 1 down the stretch. I thought he was pretty quiet, so he responded in a really big way. Speaking of response, also for the Nuggets, you talked about it briefly, but MPJ responds in a huge way after game 1 as well.
Yeah, that was a big response from him, which he obviously sorely needed, and he's so critical to them. He's got to get that. He's got to be closer to a 20-point per game guy, but 6 of 11 efficiency, 15 rebounds. You'll take that kind of production from him. Yeah, no, can't be mad at it. Although in a game the Nuggets lost by 3. I wonder how much attention in Denver right now is landing on Aaron Gordon's missed dunk in the 4th quarter.
Yeah.
Wide open, and he just back rimmed it.
Yeah. That happens sometimes.
It does, but right then,
yeah.
From a vet, like I would expect that out of Jaylen Green. Yeah. That's a very Jaylen Green thing to do, right? But not Aaron Gordon. Not Aaron. So I was surprised by that. Yeah, man, this is just a great series.
Yeah, it's just, I think these teams are pretty evenly matched. So I think this series will largely come down to depth, I would say. Which team do you think is actually deeper in this series? On paper, I would say the Clippers.
Yeah, but it's
a lot of that's just the starting group, though, right?
But it's Batum and Batum Jones. And Derek Jones Jr.
Yeah,
I like them over. But if you're getting this version of Russ, I think you can make an argument it's fairly even.
Yeah.
But otherwise, I like Derek Jones Jr. over Peyton Watson. Batum can at least come in and hit a few threes. Can Ben Simmons be anything? I don't know. I'm not convinced. But this version of Bogdanovich, I think it's pretty even. On paper, before the series, you would say the Clippers. But with this version of Bogdanovich and this version of Russ, I think it's pretty even.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's what's going to come down to, though, is role players making shots once again, because you're going to get, and then also like the star matchup, you're getting Jokic triple doubles and you're getting Kawhi going ballistic. Who's going to be better among the number twos, Harden and Murray? I think that
really feels like all of these games are just coming down to the last couple of minutes, and whoever executes is going to win, and that's going to be the way the whole series is going to go.
The thing about that is that the Nuggets are super good at executing in clutch games.
They are.
They've won because of that. So if that's it, you know what? If it's going to come down to that every game, I could see the Nuggets moving on.
Sure, but think about this. Look at it this way. The Nuggets put up 47% from the field, 44% from three, and had 15 offensive rebounds and lost.
Oof.
Now, why did they lose? They turned the ball over 20 times.
7
turnovers. That's where the Clippers defense made it. Look, that's where when we talk about defensively, these teams are on different levels, right? Now, the Nuggets are the best offense. The Nuggets are fantastic. I thought their fast break was particularly great for the Nuggets, especially in the first half. And they are one of the best fast breaking teams in basketball. But 20 turnovers, and then this Clippers team only had 11. That's going to make up for that offensive rebounding. In fact, you look 85 shot attempts for the Clippers, 79 for the Nuggets. The Clippers shot 38% from three, 48% from the field, 7 offensive boards, but they didn't turn the ball over nearly as much. So I tend to lean playoff time. I tend to lean defense, and that's why I picked the Clippers to win the series. But man, it really does just feel like one play, 2 plays in each game will ultimately decide who wins. And in last night's game, it was Aaron Gordon missed a dunk and Kawhi did Kawhi things late, and that ultimately caused the Clippers to get the win. But man, I just, like I said, I hope this series goes 7 because it is awesome.
Yeah, for sure. I agree with you. This is going to be at least a 6-game series, and I honestly, it could go either way. Like I said, I could see the Nuggets winning if it's based on the clutch basketball, but the Clippers, I think, if they can keep up doing what they're doing, and if Kawhi is going to play like that
and stay healthy,
and stay healthy, man, it's going to be a hell of a series.
Yeah, please stay healthy for a change, because every year that seems to be what trips up the Clippers. Even that they don't have Kawhi to begin a series, or they lose him mid-series, and then that's the end for them.
Any pick on Milwaukee, Indiana?
I don't know. I think the Bucks bounce back tonight and get it. If they don't, the series ends pretty quickly, I think. But I think the Bucks bounce back tonight. But I think Indiana wins the series. I think I'm going Pacers in 6.
Yeah, I think that's pretty safe.
Yeah.
And I did the Dame video that he was returning. I did some deep dive into the Bucks numbers, and I thought it was interesting how a lot of the lineups with Dame, especially if Giannis was not on the court, were largely not performing well. They were only 6 games above 500 in games Dame's played this year. So I'm curious about that, but I would like to think that they're going to spend a lot of the time on the court together in today's game, and Dame will be a nice infusion. And I think they'll come back with the requisite physicality and effort needed for a playoff game. They have
same as the Lakers. If they don't, they're going home.
So I would expect the Bucks to win this game based on those things.
Yeah, I would too. And I do think the Rockets will bounce back and get game 2 against the Warriors. I think that's going to be a close series all the way through. Again, I picked the Rockets initially. I will admit game 1 caused me to waver a little bit because I had hoped the Rockets wouldn't be quite that bad offensively, but that was really gross. There's some great series going on right now across the NBA. And this is, again, so far, I think it's been a pretty good playoffs. Obviously, a rough start to the playoffs for our Lakers specifically, but otherwise, it's been a pretty good playoffs. The Grizz against OKC. I mean, those are OKC, Boston, Cleveland. Those series are. I'm not even paying attention to those series. They're dead on arrival. They're not going to be interesting at all.
It doesn't help that Memphis went down by 55, right?
God, that was insane.
And Josh said, "What? We're not going to lose by 60 or whatever." It's ridiculous.
That was insane. I mean, when watching that score and just thinking, oh, the poor Grizzlies, like they're just getting pummeled by the Thunder. I'll tell you what, Memphis has to make some decisions this summer, assuming I said they would get swept by OKC. I still, obviously, I've not changed that opinion, but I think they're at a point where Des Bane, Jaren Jackson Jr., John Morant, I think we can say they are a good but not great big three. I don't think you can have three players paid the way they're either getting paid or going to be paid that are all three just good and not great. And so I think they've got to make some tough decisions in Memphis and break that up this summer.
That's possible. I also think that they've been done a little bit of a disservice with the roster around them. I would love for those three to get some big athletic veteran wings around them. Like, I just think the roster has been constructed poorly. Ideally,
well, they tried to, and they gave up draft capital to get Marcus Smart, thinking he was going to be that veteran that was going to do it. And
yeah,
and then they gave up draft capital to get rid of him.
Yeah, but wings specifically. So I'm thinking guys like the Pistons got, like Tobias Harris or
sure.
Tim Hardaway, just some guys like that, or ideally some that are better in defense than Tim, but like 3-and-D big wings, or even some vets for the back of the roster, just to help this team learn what it means to be a good team, to be a playoff team. So like
Dorian Finney-Smith.
Oh yeah, but DFS,
they wanted him. They thought they were going to get him, and then the Lakers swooped in.
That's right. But that's more the direction I think they should be going. But when I say back of the bench guys, I mean like some Jeff Green types or guys you could just have in the locker room.
57-year-old Jeff Green.
Yeah, but I think they would do good for getting more. Let's say they could get like a couple Derek Joneses, a couple DFSs. I think this team could be really good. But that's asking for a lot. That's hard to get.
The problem is every team is saying
right.
That. Every team says, even teams that are stocked with wings are like, well, we could use a few more wings, right? Like every team wants more wings. So that's the challenge, is finding those guys. But Jalen Wells obviously was a nice addition. I mean, they've got Gigi Jackson. They've got, who's not.
But I want veterans.
You want veterans. You want guys who've been there, who've done that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think simply put, I think John needs the leadership. I don't think that team has leadership enough to get to where they want to go.
So Kevin Durant.
I'm not sure that's the direction I have no problems with KD. I just don't think any team should be wanting to pay KD $60 million, So, but hey, right. Jimmy Butler got it, and Jimmy, it's working out. So KD,
damn it, you know what, Donnie? That's it right there. That's where the Grizzlies just needed to say, screw it, we're trading for Jimmy anyway.
Yeah.
Because he's exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
he's exactly what you're talking about.
That would have been a great fit.
Jimmy would have been the perfect fit.
And they wouldn't be the 8th seed, I think, if they had Jimmy.
No, they would not be the 8th seed, and they would be
pretty competitive.
They'd be dangerous. They would be dangerous. All right, everybody. Well, we wanted to jump on here and talk playoffs for a little bit. If you haven't subscribed yet to the Basketball Bulletin, hit that subscribe button. We're keeping everybody up to date on all things NBA throughout the season, the off season as well. But we do appreciate all of you who have been along for the ride. This channel has taken off and grown in ways that we never anticipated. So we're so thrilled with how many people have come along and been hanging out with us as we go through the NBA. And we've got, a lot more coming, obviously, and some big stuff planned too. So make sure you do hit that subscribe button and turn on those notifications as well. Again, thank you very much, everybody. I'll be live tonight for the Lakers Wolves over at Lakers Nation. So if you guys want to come hang out there for that, that's going to be a big one coming up at 7 o'clock Pacific time. So thank you again, everybody. Hit that subscribe button. See ya and stay safe.